welcome to a very special edition of the LFC Red Poets podcast with me, Tom Keegan, and I'm joined tonight by Les Lawson and Peter Warburton. Tonight, we have a very, very special guest. In his 6.5 years at Liverpool FC, he played 359 games, scoring 55 goals. And in that time, he won the League Championship 5 times. We won the European Cup 3 times, and we won the League Cup 4 times. He is unarguably one of the greatest players ever to play for the club. When the word legend is thrown about, this really does apply to Mr. Graeme Souness. Welcome, Graeme. It's lovely to have you.
That's some introduction. Thank you.
Well, every word is meant. Right.
Yeah, they were great days. They were very special days, and they just went too quickly. You know, you just think it's going to last forever, but it didn't. But
yeah,
very lucky to be there at that time.
But you were joined by such fantastic players. How did you find out you were about to join Liverpool, Graeme?
Well, it was quite well. I knew for a while, and it's a direct but indirect route. I was at Middlesbrough. Phil Boersma had left Liverpool to come to Middlesbrough. His big friend was Bob Rockcliffe, who had the Wheatsheaf garage, just Naughty Ash. And every morning, Bob Paisley would go in there to see Bob Rockcliffe, who owned the garage, who was also Boy's pal, and he would pick his horses, and Bob Rockcliffe would put the bets on for him. So Bob Paisley was saying to Bob Rockcliffe, you know, tell your pal that we're, you know, his pal being Boersma, Phil, that they were interested in me. And then there was interest from Man City and Leeds at the time. But, you know, once Liverpool had declared an interest, and given that it was a direct route into the manager, I knew it was real. They had one go at trying to buy me, and it was turned down, and I dug my heels in and fell out with the club over it, because, you know, at that time, if you could have joined Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Liverpool, it was Liverpool. They were simply the best.
I remember, funny enough, we went down to see Kenny's first game at Middlesbrough, you know, at the start of the season. And we'd gone down in a minibus, you know, for all the lads that I work with. And I think Kenny had scored very early in that game. But most of the people that was there were impressed by you. You were tackling. You had a really solid game that game. Do you remember anything about that game?
Did Kenny get 2 goals? I remember he scored 1. Did he get 2?
No, we drew 1-1. But I think a lad called Armstrong scored for Middlesbrough.
Late David Armstrong. He was a good player, a really good left foot. I can remember Kenny having a moan at me because I had a little nip at him. And he wasn't happy.
And then it comes to joining Liverpool, and then, you know, do you remember anything about your early games when you debut?
I remember everything.
Oh,
you know?
Brilliant! This makes it so much easier.
Well, how can I put this? The children listen to this.
Well, you carry on.
Well, I was obviously single, and it was a day off, and I got a call to a lady's house that the club wanted to speak to me. And I remember going to the club and being told I was to go to the Queen's Hotel in Leeds. They didn't say who were interested in me. And I'm thinking Leeds, it's Leeds United. But I decided if it was Man City or Leeds United, I wasn't going to go. I was going to sit tight because of the connection through Boy. So I get to the Leeds Hotel, the Queen's Hotel in Leeds, and I'm shown into a ballroom. And the ballroom must have been 30 yards long, 40 yards long. No one else in the boardroom. There was Peter Robinson, there was John Smith and Bob Paisley, and I could see them from 30 yards away at the other end of the ballroom. It seemed crazy. A little table, nothing else, a table and 4 or 5 chairs. And I think that meeting lasted, you know, it'd be John Smith saying, would you like to join Liverpool FC, you know, in his Oxford English. I gave it away. I'd lost all my bargaining power by being so enthusiastic. So we got that didn't last 5 minutes of meeting, and we went. There was none of that. Where are you going to play me? Will I be in the team? You know, it was just where to assign. So we went back along the M62, and I had a BMW at the time, a black BMW, and Peter Robinson was in the front seat, the passenger seat. I was driving a bit fast. I don't know if you remember, because I'm not sure if it's still there, but it was a dip just before you got to the end of the M62. And I was going that fast, more or less bloody took off. And Peter Robinson, I could remember him vividly gripping the dashboard. And so I thought, I better slow down. Anyway, I got there, medical, no problem, signed. And it was the first game was away to West Brom.
It was, yeah. Our stats
say,
man up the top, Peter, he's got all our stats for this.
Yeah.
I've had to write a little bit down because my memory's not as great as it used to be. But I remember your home debut against Birmingham was.
Can I take you back to my first game?
Go on.
Mhm.
You know, we knew how to socialise. That was a different generation. So Monday was walk around Melwood, jog around Melwood, a few stretches, a few sprints, 6-7 aside for 40 minutes maybe, a few sprints and then home. That was the same Tuesday night. We went out. The boys took me out. And I can remember I was with Tomo and Terry Mack, and they started on pints. And I said, I'll just have a half to start with. And they looked at me as if I was like stupid. So I quickly had to have a pint. Anyway, they were testing me to see how much I could drink. So the following day we're off. Thursday was the same training. Walk around Melwood, jog around Melwood, a few stretches. Anyway, Friday next to nothing. Go down to Birmingham on the Friday night. It's 2:45 on the Saturday, my very first game for Liverpool. And at 2:45, I said to Joe, I said, Joe, can I have a word? He said, yes, Sam, what is it? I said, look, I've been here a week and no one has said anything to me. How is it you want me to play? His response was, and Joe, when he spoke to her, you had to lean in to listen to me. I think he spoke quietly on purpose. He said, fuck off. We spent all this money on you and you asked me how to play football. That was the first and only time I ever asked a question in my nearly 7 years at Liverpool. Never asked another question. Too scared.
Going on to the Birmingham game, your debut at home. It was 0-0 half time, and then suddenly we're all standing on the cop, 3-0 down. And a couple of the lads said to me, what does Graeme Souness think of this team? He's come to this team from Middlesbrough, and we're 3 down. And I know we nearly salvaged the game. I think we got 2 back and we piled the pressure on at the end. But the next game, I think, was Coventry away, and we lost that one as well. And we were all saying, oh my God, what did you think of us?
But no, I think it's worse. I think it was worse than that, because I think losing to Birmingham was the first time we'd lost at home in about 15 months.
Yeah.
I think it was some daft record, and it was my home debut and got beat. So it was all my fault.
Wasn't that Alf Ramsey's first game as a manager that game, Greg?
Alf Ramsey?
Yeah, the manager. He took over as manager of
Birmingham.
He went. I vaguely remember. He went. I'm sure that he'd gone from England, and he was the manager of Birmingham City. I'm not sure whether it was the first game, and that was the thing that they built it up. That they actually, I checked that. We checked that last night, and he was, because I thought he was, but
no, I can't remember that. I was just my debut getting beat.
Yeah, but what a game that turned out to be, to come back. Peter was informed me that you hit the crossbar.
I was just, I said, a free kick. I hit the crossbar at Cop End. Yeah, bounced off the cross. That's a good shot. Well remembered. We still lost the game.
Yeah. Your next home game though, Graeme, was more memorable when you scored that cracking goal against Man U in the Annie Road end. What a goal that was! God, went in like a rocket.
I know it was. I can remember I got the ball kicking to Anfield Road end. Terry Mack went wide, put it into him, and I sort of just followed play up, and he picked me out, and it came across my body, and I hit it with my left foot, just top corner. But it doesn't get any better than that, does it?
Doesn't.
No.
Not against them.
No.
The best goal.
Yeah, that was yeah. What can I say? Just a great memory.
Yeah, because I think in
first goal against them.
Yeah, them days, Graeme. I think we were out the FA Cup early that year. I think in January we lost to Chelsea, and then you were obviously cup side then, weren't you, for like the League Cup? and even for Europe. And I think you only came into the side in the semi-final. Is that right, in the European Cup?
Yeah, but I can remember I was telling someone this story just recently. You know, Kenny was a record transfer between two clubs. And I was an English transfer record. And we went to Benfica, and it was a really rainy night, and we had a great result. I mean, proper rain, and I'm dressed there thinking I look smart with my latest gear on. And I think we won, was it 3-0? I think Emlyn got a goal that night. And I'm in the dressing room, and the floor's littered with muddy boots and muddy socks and, you know, shorts and everything, shirts. And I'm standing there thinking, good result. I'm looking sharp. And then Ron Moran said to me, "Is there something wrong with you?" "Oh, no, I'm fine, thanks. I'm okay." He said, "We're a fucking team. Go round, tie the boots together and put them in the skip, please." Here's me with my latest gear on thinking, this is Liverpool. I'm a big cheese. You're forever getting a smack on the head, just a reminder that you're just nothing special. And Ronnie was the best ever at that.
Do you think that's what made us so successful, Graeme?
What made us so successful was that we had the best players.
Yeah.
And we had coaches who had the most unique way of keeping your feet on the ground. You know, we very rarely got a well done. Or you might get from Joe, nothing from Ronnie, from Joe. "Did okay today, son." That means you played really, really, really well. If you got an okay. I'm asked about this all the time, about, you know, what was special about it. And I'm sure other people you've had on here would tell you the same. We never talked about tactics. We never talked about systems. We never really worked on free kicks. Well, not really, we didn't, other than had a thing called the European free kick, which was when we attacked. It was in a wide area. Say Neely was taking a free kick and everyone would run in, and then the left back would arrive late. That was called the European free kick. That was as much as our tactics. And only once in my 7 years, we never worked on defensive things either. We're just expected, you're doing that, you're doing that. They're just top players. We went to Bayern Munich. They had drawn, this was 8-1 semi-final of the European Cup. We'd drawn 0-0 at home, and Breitner had ran the show, a really good player. Really good player. And we go there, and when we arrive in the stadium, on every seat in the Olympic Stadium, about 70,000 seater, there was a roadmap to Paris for the final. They thought they were in the final. So Bob came in after getting one, pinned it on the board, have a look at that. So that, you know, didn't need to say anything else to us. So then we go out to warm up, come back in 5 minutes before the game starts. The buzzer goes. We stand up. We're lined up to go out the door. And Bob said, "Just hold on a minute." He stood at the front of us. He says, "Tonight, Sammy, you man marked up Paul Breitner." We all started laughing. I said, "But we don't, you know, it's us. It's all about you play. There's nothing for anyone." So all of a sudden, he was taking someone else into consideration. Now, I can't answer this. Maybe you can, well, give me your opinion on it. 2 weeks before that, I'd seen this guy have a really good game at our place. We never worked on it. We never spoke about it. It was never mentioned. So he waited until 5 minutes before the kickoff before telling us we're going to do something different tonight. That was the one and only time. Now, why did he do that? Did he think of it on the day? Did he be mulling about it and thinking maybe, maybe not, maybe? Or did he think he was always going to do it and I don't want to concern them with it and I'll tell them just before they're going out the door? But they made you feel like, if we were, they would say to us, if we worked hard, Joe would say, "If you could guarantee me we'll work as hard as them in that dressing room today, we win the game because we're better players. You lot are better players. In fact, it doesn't matter who's in that dressing room. Because you're so good, you match whoever's in that dressing room or any dressing room and we win." And they made you feel, you know, but it was all about working hard, working as hard as opposition. And because you were better, you'd win the day. 9 times out of 10, we did that.
Do you know what, that's probably true, isn't it, in the players that we had at the times? You know, you're talking before, your names that you just mentioned, you know, like, and Phil Neal, Emlyn Hughes, you know, Alan Hansen, Kenny Dalglish.
These are world-class footballers.
They were the best. Les was saying a thing before about how, you know, how these players, they just played as a unit, and I forgot Rushy out of that as well. You know, like
there's more you could add.
Yeah, I know. No wonder we won. So you felt so confident before every game because we were that good.
you know,
You was that good.
you're sitting in the dressing room and you're looking to your left. That'll do. I can rely on him. I'm looking to the right. Yeah, I can rely on him. I'm looking across the dressing room. Fuck, I can rely on all of them. It's only me only me might be the problem today. And I think everyone was thinking that in the dressing room. We had a very, very special group of players. And we took it for granted. I think our supporters may have took it for granted. And I come back to that. We were never allowed to become big heads. Ronnie called us the big heads all the time. You know, if you're a first team player, you're a big head. And that was just a little reminder that, you know, we've had good players here before, better than you. We've had better teams than you here before. And it was all just a little chipping away at us, just to remind us that you get nothing unless you match the other team for effort.
Graham,
you signed for us in the January, and then sort of 4 months later to the date you signed, you know, you're walking out in the European Cup final at Wembley against Bruges. I was at that European Cup final. I was 14 years of age, and I'd gone down with my mates, and you know, the excitement was unbelievable. And you played that magnificent pass to Kenny, and he did shit. Unbelievable. And you know, for me, you know, I can just remember being overwhelmed, and you know, to actually see my team live win the European Cup, and I've been lucky enough to see it, you know, a number of times since. But that was special. How did you feel, sort of, you know, later playing in such a game?
Well, I was always blessed with confidence, and I am, you know, me having a big price on me, I can never remember that being an issue for me. And as you said, 4 months later, I'm playing in a European Cup final. My attitude was, I'm going to be the best player on the pitch today. And I, you know, went out with that, I'm going to be the best player today. And as I remember that night, they didn't want to take us on in a game of football. They were scared of us. You know, we were the European champions. We were Liverpool. Everyone feared us. And they had some really top players, but they negative, try to play on counter-attack. And it was only a matter of time before we got a goal. You know, the players we had in our team. They did get a breakaway, didn't they? I seem to remember they did get a breakaway, had a chance before we scored. But we were always going to win that game. And what, 100,000 people, 90,000 Liverpool supporters? We were always going to win that.
I think that goes into the following season, Graham, as well. Your first full season, you were talking about the confidence of the whole team. We only conceded 16 goals in that season, and we'd be going to matches, and it wasn't a case of, oh, how will we get on today? It's how many will we win by? Yeah. And we conceded 4 goals that season, only 4 goals at Anfield.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine buying a seat? And I scored an OG at Bolton. So they only scored 15 goals against us. That was incredible. So you imagine buying a season ticket and the guy behind the window saying to you, and by the way, you know, we're only going to concede 4 goals here this year. You would think you'd been out all night on the bevy. I mean, it's just it's 4 goals at home in a whole season. Really? How's that possible?
I know.
And I come back to, they were still not happy. You know, they were still not happy with us. But it was just always chipping away at making sure you didn't become a big head. Always.
One of the great performances that season, Graham, was the 7-0 against Tottenham. And that goal by Terry Mack at the end is still, to this day, the greatest team goal I've ever seen. Not just by Liverpool, but by anyone.
Well, we were, that was Anfield Road, and we were defending the Kop. Terry Mack's on the penalty spot with me, roughly. And we break away, and within 6-7 seconds, he's heading it in at Anfield Road end. It went out to the right originally, and then was Dave Johnson played a ball first time?
Yeah.
Was it Steve Highway, and did he cross it, or was it all the way around?
Steve Highway.
And Terry, what a good player he was, Steve Highway. No one talks about these, but these were world-class footballers. Just another world-class footballer. And they had the 2 Argentinians, didn't they? That they thought they realised that maybe, because I think they had a couple of good results building up to that game, and they must have thought this English first division is not so difficult. And then those 2, I rattled their cages a couple of times. They must have fucking thought they got caught in a revolving door that day. They just couldn't escape that door. We absolutely mullered them. I mean, physically, football-wise, everything. They just couldn't deal with the intensity of us.
I think Terry Mack had an unbelievable turn of pace, Graeme, didn't he? He was very deceiving, like, because, yeah, do you know when you look at that goal, as you say, it starts and Terry Mack's at the edge of the Liverpool box when that's going.
I wouldn't say he was a sprinter. What I would say was he could run 50, 60, 70 yards the same in the 90th minute as he could in the first minute.
Yeah.
He run away from people in the 90th minute because he was the same speed as he was in the first minute. He had an unbelievable engine.
Yeah.
He had an unbelievable capacity to drink lager as well, and have it didn't alter his training at all. He was still at the front. Him and Emlyn were just unbelievable in that department. They really were. They were another level. Terry Mack, what a player.
And when you hear of like modern day football and you say you've got it's about diet, it's about what you eat, it's about how you train. We had the greatest team in the world and probably some of the best drinkers probably as well.
Yeah, but they could party, but they were good. They knew when to do it and not to do it. See, I remember when I was my last job at Newcastle, I had Dyer and Craig Bellamy, a couple of rascals, good lads, but they're rascals. And they would say, but when you played, it was different. It was walkabout football. And you were always drinking. I said, tell me this. No one's ever been able to answer this. We were playing against, we did socialise, maybe more than we should have done, but we were playing against players that were living like you boys are living now. Very little alcohol, proper food, sports science. And strangely enough, we used to piss all over them. And the longer the game went, we got stronger and they got weaker. Can you throw any light on that? And they'll go, I said, I'll tell you what it was. And they think just because we were so good, we were better players than them. And then, there'd be generally an F off at the end of it, but they couldn't deal with that. We were just the best. We just made the ball work. We just, we kept possession better than anyone else. And what else would I could talk all night about this, but what else we did better than anybody else? And nobody really worked it out. And you talk about the modern game, it's a new thing according to the experts, fullbacks joining in. When we played, we had a goalkeeper who played in the 18-yard line, whether it was Clem or Brucey. Then we had near the halfway line, we had, say, Alan Hansen and Laurel. And there'd be two strikers against them. And I was just slightly in front of them. And the two fullbacks played in front of me generally. They were always in front of me, sometimes narrow, sometimes wide. We always had more men in midfield than anybody else. And people are going, how do they keep the ball so well? Apart from being really good players. Our system was to keep our fullbacks into midfield as long as we can. I played in 3 European Cup finals, and 2 of those, now remember, it's a new thing, fullbacks joining in, and 2 of those, the fullbacks scored from open play. It's not a new thing. It's not a new thing. We were doing it 40, 50. Shankly would have been doing it before I got to the club. They were way ahead of their time.
Well, didn't coaches used to come from all around the world, you up-and-coming young coaches, to see what the secret was?
Yeah.
And as you say, the secret was we had better players who worked harder and who worked in the system. I bet it's happened to me 2 or 3 times, but there was, sort of once a month a coach would turn up from, most of them came from Scandinavia, I think. And they'd turn up with their notepad, their A4 notepad, and they would open the page, and then they would write down, walk around the perimeter, jog around the perimeter, a few stretches, 3/4 sprints, 6 aside, some sprints and home. So they'd write that down. The second day, walk around the perimeter, jog around the perimeter, a few stretches, a few sprints, 6 aside, sprints, home. The third day, they didn't bother bringing that. And they just sit there. And on 2 or 3 occasions, whoever it was, has said to me, do you come back in the afternoon and do your real training? I said, no, that's it. That's what we do. We went to I think that it was a year that we were 12th at Christmas time. And pre-season tours get all booked up early. And I think they were a wee bit worried because Liverpool, in those days, a pre-season tour, they would earn money out of it. They play big tournaments and stuff. So I got the chance to go to playing a tournament in Marbella. There was Atletico Madrid, Malaga, and I think it was Schalke.
So we arrived there and we're staying in a hotel called Andalusia Plaza, right, you know, in the middle of it all. And the posters all around the town that Liverpool were playing. When we get to the hotel, the reception, a big reception, and it was full of bikini-clad women. And you could see Bob Paisley and Joe Fagan going. And they went off into the corner, and I think at that moment, we just said, we won't be able to control them, we'll just do our best. So we were allowed to, we were training at the wrong time, we train at 10:30, 11 o'clock when the sun's get near its warmest. We would come back, we would spend afternoons around the pool, we'd have our dinner, then we'd go down to the port, having a few beers. And, you know, I room with Kenny, and there was this guy, Kenny always, in those days, had to get in the corner out of the way. So we'd be in the corner and started watching the rest of them, what they're getting up to. And see this coach, this German coach, watching them all the time. So comes the first game, and was it Schalke we played? Anyway, we were brilliant. We bashed them up about 4 or 5-0, whoever it was. And that night, we're back in the pub. And he came over, he said, how'd you do it? I watch you train, I see that you drink beer, and you can play football like that. I said, well, I can't really answer that. This is normal for us. And he was amazed. He had his players training at 6 in the morning, going to bed during the hot hours, bed in the afternoon, and training 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the evening. And they were fucking hopeless, and we were just, and it was just another example of how good we were. We could go and not even fully fit beat the best teams because we're that good.
God. Do you ever think that you know, at that period of time, did you, you know, when you're looking back and you see the, do you ever wonder why we never did it in the FA Cup? We never had any luck in the FA Cup.
Well, in a cup competition, you need a bit of luck. You need, you know, this is why at Liverpool they always said winning the league said more about you as a team, as an individual, than winning a cup. Because a bit of bad luck on a day can cost you a game in a cup. But winning a league meant you dealt with the difficult periods in the season. You dealt with the injuries. You dealt with the disappointments. We'd be over 9 months. You were the best. You don't win a league. You only win the league because you've been the best team. You've not enjoyed a lucky period. You've been the best team. And it said more about your consistency levels. I remember we lost. We played, was it 4 games or 3 games we lost to Arsenal?
4.
We lost we lost to Man United in a replay at Goodison. But they were games we should have won. These were games we should have won. Just on the day, the ball didn't bounce for us.
That's the one thing I hope. Go on, Les.
Terry Mack missed the pen, didn't he, at the post in the first game at Main Road when Jockey got the equaliser from a Phil Thompson cross, would you believe? And as I say, Terry Mack missed the penalty. Kenny scored the great goal. Terry Mack missed the penalty, and you just felt that it wasn't meant to be. I always remember in that game that Steve Highway come on a sub after about 65, 70 minutes for Jimmy Case, and he absolutely run Jimmy Nicholl ragged and was responsible for Liverpool getting back in the game because United were on top at that point. And then in the replay, I think
Jimmy Greenough.
Yeah, and I think in the replay, Bob started with Stevie Highway instead of Jimmy Case, and a fresh Jimmy Nicholl against an older Stevie Highway. Stevie didn't have the same impact, and I think later on Bob probably regretted that decision to start with Jimmy.
He didn't get much wrong, did he?
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
Going back to those 4 games, Graeme. Well, we played Arsenal 5 times actually within the space of a fortnight. We had the league game at Anfield as well. But I always remember the first game at Hillsborough. I think Brian Talbot hit the bar in the last minute for Arsenal.
He actually got the winner in the 4th game.
Yeah, and he got the winner at Coventry, didn't he, in the 4th one? But it was like the bank of mum and dad. Every time we got a draw, I'd be coming out, because I went to all 4. I'd be coming home to my mum and dad saying, can I borrow some more money? We're playing them again in a few days' time. And in hindsight, you know, when we got back on that coach at Coventry, we were really gutted. And I said to me, mate, you know what? I wish Talbot had scored in that last minute. It wouldn't put us through all this agony. Went to Villa Park twice in Coventry. But yeah, it's like you say, we just didn't seem to have the luck in the FA Cup for some reason. You know, like yeah, go on, sorry.
You win the League Cup for fun every year as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
It's just the way it was. There's no doubt we were the best team. We just on the night we didn't enjoy that bit of luck.
And do you know
Yeah.
what I think? Well, it was Bob as well, because he'd missed out on the FA Cup, and I think they were desperate to win the trophy for him. I should imagine as players, you know, like it was the one he missed out on, and he won everything, didn't he? You know, and like we were at the game, we were talking about that game at Goodison Park. You know, it's recently been on, a little video of it been on where it finished 2-2, didn't it? The first leg. And then we lost. I think Mark Hughes got the winner in the replay.
Robbo scored, didn't he? Didn't Brian Robson score?
Brian Robson.
Was it Robbo?
No,
Well,
I
no,
thought it was
got
Jimmy Greenough got the goal.
Yeah,
Jimmy Greenough got the.
Goodison,
Yeah,
didn't
That
he?
was a Goodison, yeah.
yeah. We had them twice, didn't we? In
Yeah.
a couple of years, and he knocked us out. But unbelievable. But I always thought that was, you know, if a man deserved to win at Wembley, it was Bob Paisley.
I don't think he can complain with what he wants.
No, I think no. Do you know what? That's what I know. I know. Even in today, where we talk about Alex Ferguson and what he achieved in that, but Bob, for what he won in that 9-year period,
Was it 9 years? No, he didn't.
yeah, just incredible. Do you know? And he's never, you know, when they actually talk about football, he's never given the credit he deserves.
But he was a quiet man, wasn't he? Never looked for a headline. He was happy to.
Yeah.
That when we won the League Cup, was it Man United would be?
Yeah.
He went up steps first. He didn't want to go. I was literally pushing him up there. He didn't want to go. He didn't want to go. And then when you win it was strange in his last year because, you know, as a captain, I was going to a few dinners with him. And through that year, you could see him getting more and more confident about talking to people, in public. And he's actually very funny. And towards the end, he sharpened up an act where he was actually very funny. His timing was good and telling stories. He was special. He was, you know, I was out last night and I was sitting next to Fergie, funnily enough, at dinner, LMA dinner. We were talking about great managers. And, you know, he said, well, yeah, I had longevity, but when he mentioned Paisley, that's like, how many was it in 9 years? How many was it, about 12, 13 trophies or something?
Yeah, that's something like that, 12 or 13. Just incredible. And you know what? I met him, you know, Graeme. I met him about 2 or 3 times. He used to, he run the police 5-a-side, and Janet Ireland was a woman that he must have lived by him in Wilson, and he used to come and give the trophies out to all the kids, you know, and he brought John Aldridge. The poor John Aldridge got dragged along. It must have been every couple of times. So I met him, and he signed. We got medals at the time as a manager because we got through to the final. And he signed the medal for me. And you know what? I never lacquered the bottom of the medal, and it disappeared over. You know, after time, I was gutted, absolutely gutted. But he was a lovely, lovely man. He took time to speak to everybody.
He was ruthless as well, you know.
I could imagine.
No, he was ruthless as well. You know, he obviously knew football inside out, but he found it hard to get that message across at times. And, you know, there's individuals, maybe I wouldn't name them, but took advantage of that, but you'd find at the end of the season they might be on their way. They didn't. And I was lucky because I had sort of four and a bit years up in the northeast, and they have the little sayings. So I knew right away what he was trying to say. And I really, well, he made me captain. I really liked him. I got on well with him. And I lived in West Derby. I lived in Sandfield Park in West Derby. So what I would do, I would take my used to be my daughter, then it was a daughter and my son to school. And then I would come back there and go to the garage. I'd go in get Bob Rockcliffe's garage. And he was always in the back. And I'd have a cup of tea. Joan was there. She was sort of like, girl, but knows they serve you petrol. And so it was Joan and then the two Bobs, Bob Rocker and Bob Paisley, would be in the back picking horses, and you could see them. And I would never intrude. And so we'd pass as he was going into work. I still another 10, 15 minutes in the garage, and we struck out. There was no lengthy conversations, but he would say something that at the time meant nothing, and then I'm driving back into Anfield afterwards. What did he mean by that? And there was always a meaning to what he said. He was a wise old owl. There was no flies on him.
Can I just take you forward to 1984, your final season with the Reds? Where we end up, doing the treble under Joe, and this is something else that gets missed by a lot of people. You scored the first ever goal in an All Merseyside Cup final to actually win, the League Cup. What are your memories of that occasion? The All Merseyside Cup final and the replay.
I remember in the first game, we got lucky. We didn't start well. Everton were on the way up then. They were a decent team. And we got away with a draw that day. I think we should have lost at Wembley that day. And then the second game back at Main Road, there was nip and tuck. I think it was the first half we scored. I can remember the ball coming into me, and I miscontrolled it. And I spun, and it just came up, and I managed to, sort of that movement as opposed to that one. I just said to, and it sort of bounced in front of Neville Southall, and the pace took it into the net. And of course, if we ever went that year, all the teams I played at Liverpool were like this, but especially that team. If we got the first goal, it was good night Vienna for them. We very rarely gave up a goal after that. It might not be the most exciting at times, but and then if you've got Rushy in the team, just defend properly, he's going to get a goal for you. And he got a lot of goals that year. But I
remember in the League Cup as well, Graham, we played Walsall over 2 legs, and they actually come up to our place and got a 2-2 in the first leg. So we all said, right, we'll have to go down. We took half a day off work and went down. And that was the night that the wall collapsed, if you remember.
That's right.
There was photographs of you in the paper with a couple of young kids coming off the pitch.
Yeah, the whole thing came down.
Yeah, we were obviously in that end, but we were standing towards the back, and even the wall at the back wasn't very well built,
Yeah.
But what I was going to ask you about that year as well was, when did you know? Did you know in your own mind you were going to leave at the end of that year?
No. I mean,
you're all ready or what?
I tell you what happened. When I was married to at the time, her family had a few bob, and she was about to inherit some money, so she had to go and leave the country for 3 years. And really at that time, did I really want to leave Liverpool? I was captain of Liverpool, captain of Scotland. I was in my pomp. I was playing my best football. So I didn't really want to leave, but circumstances dictated, because there's no talk of private jets or helicopters in those days. I would have to have been living on my own, and she'd have to have gone offshore somewhere. And then I can't honestly say how the interest from this. Roma also showed an interest. As to Barcelona, Terry Venables had just gone to Barcelona, and they offered me a 2-year deal. And I said, no, I want a 3-year deal, because my wife had she had to be out for 3 years. So, and also the season before that, I had a chance to go to Bayern Munich as well. But I come back to that, you didn't leave Liverpool. You just didn't leave Liverpool. It was, if you had a choice, you chose Liverpool above all them. So I can't really remember how, but at that time Italy was like the Premier League and more. They were paying a lot of money over there. They had very wealthy owners, and it was all the biggest players in the world were there. So, and I think Liverpool, I was 31 then. They paid £352,000 for me, and I think they got about $750 for me. So they had best part of 7 seasons service, and then they were doubling their money on me. So for them, it was good business.
Your last act as the Liverpool player was to score the penalty, then, wasn't it? In the shootout. Yeah. Good way to go.
I tell you about that penalty. I took a few penalties. I remember scoring against Shilton at Wembley, England, Scotland. But I'd always put the ball down, and then I'd have a look at the goalkeeper, and I'd come back, and I always would shape to go to the goalkeeper's left, and then because you can whip it, you should come round, approach the ball at an angle. So if the ball's in front of you, take a few steps to the left, right-footed player, threatened to go to the goalkeeper's left and then whip it to the goalkeeper's right. So I've put it down, I've looked at the goalkeeper, I've turned away, that's what I'm going to do. So from turning away and taking 4 or 5 steps, whatever it was, and turning, I decided to change my mind. Why? I have no idea. But as it turned out, I couldn't hit it any better. and you know, and that's the hardest technique of all, because if you think about it, you're putting only maybe 5 inches of boot on the ball, a little bit of the boot on the ball to get that motion, to strike it like that. So that was good technique, but I got lucky as well. For a minute when it left me out, I thought that's going over the bar. Unfortunately, it didn't.
Do you know when you seen Alan Kennedy walking up to take the penalty, honestly, how honest was your confidence?
No.
I don't think you were either.
He's too mad to be frightened. He would be no nerves with him. You know, he's much criticised, not criticised, but undervalued. I think he was proper. You know, he used to try and annoy the life out of me, where he'd get the ball at left back and he'd try and ping it 60, 70 yards diagonally to the right winger, and I'm showing for it, and I'm falling out with them all the time. Especially, you know, if it didn't land, didn't find its target, I would give him a volley. I can remember saying to Joe, I said, Joe, you got to fucking speak to him. You keep giving the fucking ball away. And he said, just keep showing for it. You just keep showing for it. He will give it to you. But he was a really good player, Alan Kennedy. He gave us a lot going forward. And he had that never say die attitude. He was mad as a brush, but he had that never say die attitude. You know, he would try something. If it didn't work, he'd keep trying it. He was not frightened to make mistakes. And he had great athleticism as well. And physically, he'd have a go. You know, he would physically have a go.
Yeah. Still see Barney quite a bit at the game now. He's there all the time.
He's still fit looking, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's one of those boys who's naturally fit.
Yeah.
Graeme, this brings us to, can we move on to have a little chat about how you see Liverpool today?
Yeah.
And with our, you know, with there's been rumoured lots of players coming today, and you know, I think, what do you think the players that we need to be? Where have we got to invest in this summer? And what are the players that we're looking for?
Well, I've got a column in the newspaper on a Saturday morning, and on the 10th of August last year, I wrote, I'm a bit disappointed Liverpool haven't bought a couple of midfield players, because I think that's an area where they need to strengthen. And my thinking hasn't changed. You know, if you look at, there's nothing wrong with the squad other than a couple of really good midfield players. Then you got your team back to challenging again. People are pointing out Trent's weakness defending. The back four all of a sudden look vulnerable. Van Dijk doesn't look the same. That, for me, in my opinion, only stems from the midfield not putting the ball under pressure. You know, Liverpool were the best when Jordan Henderson, Wijnaldum, James Milner, when they were in their pomp, they would have been horrible to play against, because when you're playing against them, they weren't 2 yards off you. They were there. They were in your face. So your head would be down all the time, unless you could do something to skip past one of them. So if they're at you all the time, keeping your head down, the back four, Van Dijk and the rest of them can push up with confidence, knowing the midfield are all over their midfield, keeping the ball under pressure. So no quality coming into you. That's gone this year. Occasionally it showed itself, but that's gone. Different midfield. Always felt, even when they were at the very best, the icing on the cake would have been someone who could do that, the hard yards, but also have a bit of craft and you know, dinka passing. So for me, the age of that back four should only be getting better. You've got a great goalkeeper. The back four, Konaté still concerns me slightly. I think Matip's still the best one. Whether he goes for someone else there, because as a manager, time ain't your friend. It's got to be next year for this team again. They've got to be on it next year. I think up front, there's plenty of goals in the team. Even with the ones that are leaving, plenty of goals. So for me, a couple of really good midfield players. I see he's linked with McAllister, isn't he?
Yeah. What do you think about McAllister?
I like him.
Do you know, we've had this discussion. I raved about McAllister right the way through. From when I first watched him play for Brighton against Liverpool, and him and Caicedo doubled up on Thiago, and it was the way they worked him. I've said to Les and to Peter, you would get Caicedo hitting him, pressing him quickly, and McAllister would come up and take the ball away from him and move away fast. And he'd done it to him all the way through the game. And I was talking to my son Lee while the game was going on, and I was saying, you know, he's a brilliant little footballer, that lad. He really is. And I've said all the way through, I said, he's the one that I really want. And the lads, most of the lads have said, Caicedo is the one, but I think he'd be a brilliant player for Liverpool.
I mean, different. I think McAllister's, there's nothing to dislike about him. I think he's got the work rate, he's got the talent. You know, Argentinians are, you know, can be gritty when they have to be. You know, you can't mess them around. You know, his old man, I think it was his grandfather he's Scottish, went from Scotland, I think, taken out there to be sheep farmers. His grandfather, his great-grandfather. And his father played for Argentina. I think he was a left back. But no, there's nothing to dislike about him. I think he's fire. I think he's spirited. I don't think you could sicken him physically. He's got real talent, chips in with a goal, sees a pass. No, he's proper. For me, he's proper. He would make Liverpool better. I like him.
Who's the other two, Les, that we were talking about?
They've been linked, haven't they, with two young French midfield players, Kone who plays for Borussia Mönchengladbach, and Thuram, who's Lilian Thuram's son, who plays for.
Yeah.
With both of them.
Yeah, you see, the ideal scenario is you want to buy people who have performed in the Premier League. You know, if we acknowledge that the Premier League is the best league in the world, you're bringing people in from other leagues who sometimes find it difficult. Best example of that, Thierry Henry. You know, for after 2 or 3 years, if you remember his first year at Arsenal, he had a stinker. Then, for me, arguably became the best player in the world for 2 or 3 years. So our league takes a bit of adjusting to the intensity of it. So they might be fabulous players. They might come here and hit the ground running. They might need a year. But I think with McAllister, you've got someone who knows what he's going to be confronted with every Saturday, Sunday he plays. I'm trying to think who else you would want. I don't think Bellingham was ever a possibility, you know, given that Kroos and Modric at Real Madrid are coming to the end of their life there. I think he was always destined for there. And he's obviously a really good player. The fact that he won the Player of the Year in Germany this year. He's 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So
we were talking just before we came on the program, Graeme, and we were thinking he's such a young lad and he's played so many games already, and you just worry about his health, really. You know, will he be able to sustain it?
Well, he looks athletic, doesn't he? He looks to be an athlete.
There's like rumours today that he might need some surgery already.
Yeah.
And for a 19-year-old, you know.
Yeah, but there's not the same intensity in German football as well.
No.
You know, it's not a great watch sometimes.
I just like the midfield, and I think McAllister would fit the bill. You can weigh in with some goals. We rely heavily on the forward line. It's the way we play. Obviously, it's the way we play. But when we had Gini playing in midfield, he'd weigh in with a few goals, and I think we've lost a little bit of edge there.
Well, he had energy. You know, James Milner had great energy and great intensity, as did Jordan Henderson. But that, you know, that's in the past, and I think it's the next generation in there. But the rest of the team, for me, I think if we can get a couple of good midfield players,
where do you see Trent ending up, Greg? Do you think he's a midfield player, or do you think he's a?
Did he not start as a midfield player?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So I think playing that assist. What happens with centre backs? Centre backs like to hold hands with each other. So if he goes and plays into midfield, that means the right side centre back has to go out and be a cross between a right back and a right centre back, a right back. They don't like going out that wide centre backs. And against, was it Spurs? Konate, he found it difficult. I think against the lesser teams, Jordan going in there because he's a wonderful passer of the ball. This is my two concerns. Him going in there because a problem for Gomez might be better at it. Matip might be able to deal with that better. But against Spurs, I think Konate didn't know where to stick or twist at times. Trent going in there will definitely give you, he's the best passer they've got in the club. One of the best passers of the ball in the country. Great range of pass. Against the lesser teams, I think it would work. I think when we're playing against the better teams, and I would have said, when you lose possession, I think the word in the modern game is transition. So when you lose the ball, you have to have a very different thought process. You know, if you're a fullback, it's very simple. If you're a fullback, you're looking at everything is there. If you're right back, touchline, every player in the pitch you can see. When you're 20 yards in there, you've got to have the different radar on. You've got to be like a midfield player. You've got to be like a frog, seeing everything. And I just worry about him because he's not a great player that senses danger, even as a fullback. And a fullback is the easiest place to play on the pitch. But listen, they won the league. They won the league with him playing at right back. They won the European Cup with him at right back.
Yeah.
He should only be better today than he was 3 years ago. He ain't the biggest problem we've got. For me, the problem is in midfield.
Yeah.
I think he could play that.
I think everybody accepts that. I think where we're looking for players, I think we're looking for players of 23, 24, 25. I think last season was a problem where we had young players, where you had Elliott and Trent, Elliott and Carvalho, and you had Curtis Jones who was coming in. So you had them three young players, and then you had older players like you had Milner, Jordan Henderson, Oxley, Chamberlain, well, Keita when he was fit, but and Thiago. So there was nothing in between at the midfield, and I thought that's where we run out of legs.
Well, it's not so. See, you've named a lot of midfield players there, and you would think you could rotate them to get performances out of them. I'm afraid to say just maybe some are just not good enough for where Liverpool need to be. Yeah. That would be my overall take on it. I just think some are just not. If you look to win the Premier League and you look to win the Champions League, maybe just some of them are not that level. I mean, age. Does age come into it? If you're good enough, you're old enough.
Stefan Bajcetic, Graeme, have you liked what you've seen of him so far?
Who? Yes.
He's
the one I do like. He's injured. He got injured towards the end, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good player. I think he's the best out of the young ones.
Very good.
He puts a foot in as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He was
a centre back as well, and he's being converted into a midfield player.
You see, at a football club, it's never been any different. The most important thing you have to get right is recruitment. Liverpool, up until the last couple of years, have been brilliant at that. Michael Edwards or whoever else it was involved in it. And you need a bit of luck, but they've been fabulous. They've been better than anyone else. When you look at the kind of money they've spent to Man United's money and Man City's money, they've done remarkably well. And we'll have to see this summer how much money they're going to give the manager to spend.
Yeah. That's what we're all waiting for, I think.
Yeah. I think everybody's sitting waiting for that moment. Graeme, we're coming up to nearly the hour. Would you explain what the Deborah Foundation is and how we can help?
Well, if you just put it on your site. I mean, I got involved with this 5 years ago. It's a skin disease. I've been on the telly with a little girl called Isla, and she has dystrophic. There's different degrees of it. Mm. So she has sort of near enough there is one you're born with, and you can live hours or days with it. So she's got recessive dystrophic EB, which is not good. Mm. And her body is completely covered in blisters and open wounds. It's like someone, and that's the best analogy. And I asked her and asked her father if she mind me describing it this way, and she says no. This is true as the words come out of your mouth. It's like a blowtorch has been taken across her body and taken all her skin off. Truly horrendous. So I was like, Tom, you'd never heard of it.
No.
The world hadn't heard of it.
No.
And it's an absolutely evil disease. I mean, it is life-limiting. You don't live very long with this disease. Mm. And it's just truly horrible. It makes every single day just a chore. You're in pain, or you're either in really, really painful days, or a really painful day, or just a painful day. Yeah. And then have to go on serious drugs when you have the dressings changed, which is 3 or 4 times a week. But if there's no respite. It's with you all the time, these poor kids.
So when did you decide that you were going to swim the channel?
Oh, well, I'm swimming about 4 hours of it. I'm not swimming. That might be for another day. But there's 6 of us. I'll do about 4 hours. I've been training for 9 months because I live down on the south coast, and I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed training. I've enjoyed getting up in the morning. I say that some mornings I wish I could have stayed in my bed, through the winter. But most of it I've enjoyed. So I'm training with some military lads in there. Hard school. There's no excuses accepted, and I've really enjoyed it. A lot easier now because the water's warmer and it's lighter in the morning.
So when do you actually take the challenge?
Well, I'll be fine. The guys that I'm swimming with are better than me. I'll be fine as long as it's not too rough. So we have a 4-day window. We have the 17th, 18th, 19th, or 20th of June. So it's like 3 weeks away. Yeah. So, we'll get the call 24 hours before. We'll nip down to Dover, and then you get on a boat in Dover and you sail around the corner up the coast a bit, and then you get in the water. I suppose we'll be starting about 5 in the morning, and it depends on the currents as well and tides, because that can make it a lot longer if you just get the wrong tide current. But we'll be fine. It's just I've needed something. I've been bored. I've needed something.
But do you know what we'll do? What we can up here to raise as much money for it as we can, up this end, and I'll ask my sons to get involved. So.
Well, there's a site. There's a giving site. One of these giving pages.
Yeah.
And if you want to write this down, it's give.as
AS.
Yes.
AS.
Yeah. Arsenal Stoke. So it's give.as / Deborah Swim. Deborah is the name of the girl. Debra. Deborah Swim.
Swim. Okay.
We've raised some good money. Being on television has helped enormously. ITV and BBC have been a great help to us. But it is a truly, truly tragic thing to see.
Les and I'll have a word with the supporters club and make a donation, and I'll ask the lads, and from the podcast we put it out on Twitter, and I'll get my son's a consultant in Wigan, so I'll ask him to advertise it as well to try and get as much as we can. Really will.
Thank you very much.
It's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. It's
no.
the highlight. The three of us have been as nervous all day thinking about this, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Graeme.
I could talk about those 7 years for 2 days. I could non-stop. There was that much fun and obviously success. Very few disappointments. It was just being around those guys. It was just an unbelievable 7 years.
Graeme, can we just end on a lighter note? And I always love this story. Can you please tell the story about Stevie Nick when he was told that Kenny was dying?
Oh, well, this is how I remember it. So we're in Israel. I think we're preparing for the '84 Champions League final. There were, or
yeah, it was.
Was it?
Yeah.
So we're out for a Chinese, and Kenny Allen and I, we would sit next to each other, and Big Al got up and went down we had a long table. Big Al went down to other end of the table, and we can't hear what he's saying. And Kenny said to me, "What do you reckon he's saying to Bumper, Stevie Nicol?" And Bumper was, we called ourselves a master race, and then Bumper came along and let us down. There was Kenny, Al, and I, and we were quite vocal in the dressing room. And a little anecdote: on a Friday, Kenny would turn up with 2 packets of, do you know the story? McVitie's biscuits. So they had the chocolate version and the plain version. So the chocolate version was for us jocks. So the plain were put on the middle of the table, and we would just sit, and we'd have 4 biscuits each. And anyway, so we were quite vocal, and then fucking Bumper came along and ruined it for us. So this night in Israel, and Bumper's shaking his head, and Alan's going, well, Alan, So then Bumper gets up and goes to the loo. So I go down and say to Big Al, I said, what are you telling him? Oh, it's great, it's great. I've told him, and he's bought a hook, line, and sinker. I've told him Kenny's dying. So I go, Kenny and I are going back to the hotel now. Get him up, we'll have some fun. So half an hour later, the door goes, Big Al with Bumper sitting on the side of the bed, and he's pretending he's, making small talk. And then Kenny said to him, he said to Big Al, you've effing told him, haven't you? And Big Al, he got it out of me, forced it out of me, he got it out of me. I've had a drink, I've told him. So there was a bit of banter going back and forward. And then he said, well, what happened? And he said, well, do you remember we took that throw in? And you threw it short to me, and I bent down and I headed it back to you, and I got kicked on the head. Yeah. He said, well, that was the start of it. Well, he's in tears now. Bumper's now in tears. And then the conversation went on and on. And then Bumper said, to be fair, you've been playing shit, haven't you? So he said that to Kenny. Right. So he chased him out of the room. But what a night. You have to get Big Al to tell the story, because he is the greatest storyteller. But he dresses up. Every time you hear it from him, it's a different version. He really is. But what a team group we had in those days. The laughs we had. We had so many laughs. And I'd love to go and do it all again. I'd love to go.
I'll tell you what, Graeme, we'd always turn the clock back to January 1978 and experience it all again with you.
Yeah, well, they were great days. I walked into a dream of a football club.
Maybe
we're here to win trophies.
Game. Yeah, leave the Birmingham game on.
Yeah, leave that one. Yeah. But it was just filled with great times, great stories, great players.
Thank you very, very much. You've been an absolute joy. And just as you're a brilliant player, you're a brilliant individual. Thank you, Graeme.
Guys, thank you for making it easy. And good luck with your podcast.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Swim, Graeme, and hopefully you'll join us again soon.
Yeah, well, the end of the season, let's see what sort of season we have.
Yeah, brilliant.
You take care.
All right, boys.
Bye,
good luck to you. Off to the pub now, are we? We're off to the pub.
No, we're over our houses 7 miles away from each other.
See you guys.
See you later, guys.
Cheers.
That was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.